Hello summoners and welcome back to another ProGuides video. Following up on Riot's 10-year anniversary, we received a sneak peek at some new content that's going to be in store for us pretty soon. One of the most notable things that we've been told is that we have 2 reworks as well as 5 new champions coming out in the near future. Make sure to leave any comments, feedback, and suggestions down below. Also feel free to answer our question of the day: which kind of champion do you want to see Riot release? Personally, I really want to see another tank, but one who's more fun to play. Maybe somebody who causes tidal waves in the river or uses the terrain more like Kiana does. But before we get started, make sure you go to ProGuides.com if you want to see huge improvements in your rank. We upload video guides similar to this one on our website every single day, and as of now, we're currently uploading a Challenger gameplay analysis guide for every single champion, so make sure you click that link below. Also, we have an exclusive coaching feature called Play with a Pro, which provides instant on-demand 24/7 coaching from the best of the best. Trust me guys, you don't want to miss out on this, so sign up today. Now with that being said, let's jump into it. First up, let's talk about one of the new champions. I'm willing to bet most of you guys already know who it is because Riot has gotten us hyped, and I mean really hyped about her. It's about time Thresh's 100% wife steal memes come to an end because Riot has teased that their next champion is going to be Senna. Lucian and Thresh's history with each other has been one of the more pivotal points in League of Legends lore. The Purifier has always been on a hunt to take back what was his, and something even more important, redemption. For you newer players though, please don't build one on Lucian. This is a huge release as the quarrel between the two has been going on for years now, and we're finally seeing an insane development in the plot. Lucian has managed to get his wife back. Seriously though, that trailer was sick. Senna best waifu? Aside from the whole lore thing, Senna's champion design is interesting for sure. Based on the trailer, as well as what we've heard, she's going to play a more supportive marksman role. Although it might sound like a stretch, we've even seen Riot pull off some cool stuff like an assassin support. We know a lot of you do hate Pyke, but you gotta admit he's at least pretty fun to play and a pretty interesting concept. I personally feel that Riot will succeed with this new project and we'll see a lot of great gameplay following her release. After all, we definitely would love to see a couple that isn't Zyre and Rakan in the bot lane. One that's more mature and less kind of yuck. The next champion Riot has been teasing is going to be more of a traditional marksman. The final words that Riot left us in regard to them is, "What will you sacrifice for your faith?" Now, this definitely leaves us some chills, but hopefully it doesn't end up being a mess like Kalista. It sounds like our new friend is also going to be somebody who challenges Leona. This whole faith concept revolves around standing up against the sun and dedicating yourself completely. What we should expect is probably some difficult gameplay on a high skill cap champion. Exciting, and maybe they'll even become the next most popular marksman. Give Kaisa a break too, because she needs one. Riot's third new champion is set out to be a Juggernaut. Now, some of you might remember the initial rebrand of Bruisers that reclassified some of them as the new class of Juggernauts. And for you veterans, hopefully you don't get too livid remembering some of the insane changes that hit the Rift right before Worlds in 2015. Back then, we ended up seeing champions like Darius absolutely dominate because they were incredibly overtuned and rushed out too quickly before the tournament. This new one is set to be hailing from the underground and implies themes of heat or fire. It sounds like they've also had a rough past in their lore because while they're in the heat of things, they're said to be seen laughing while beating their opponents' faces. So it does sound like we have a fist-fighting champion, the epitome of a brawler. And of course, with TFT, we could always use more brawlers. In terms of gameplay, the champion is described as a straightforward champion, so don't expect any gimmicks, and more importantly, there'll be enough counterplay to keep them in check. Or at least hopefully. It'll definitely be more than nice to see just a Darius or Garen every game for Juggernauts, so I'm looking forward to seeing this one. Let's take a step away from new champions for a second and talk about the highly anticipated reworks for 2 of League's legacy casts. Fiddlesticks and Volibear are set to receive complete visual gameplay updates soon TM. Most of us can agree that a lot of the new champions have been really cool, and when they hit the Rift they keep the game fresh. Sure, maybe upon the release they're overtuned, but once balanced down, they're usually great assets to the game. As a result of this though, older champions feel less and less satisfying to play, so it's definitely about time these two got some makeovers. A glow up doesn't hurt anybody. First, let's discuss Fiddlesticks. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I hate this champion. Playing versus him and as him just isn't very fun. For the 2 Fiddle mains out there watching this, I'm not here to attack you. You do you fam, but hear me out for a second. First, let's talk about the visual aspect. I think whether or not you like the current Fiddlesticks, we can all agree that this boy needs needs a new wardrobe. He's one of League's original members, so at the very least a visual or lore upgrade can't hurt. A lot has changed over 10 years, including the baseline standard of art, as well as the visual appeal of recent champions. Comparatively, Fiddle just doesn't cut it anymore. He's something you picked up from your uncle's backyard, not the terrifying menace that he's supposed to be. Honestly, Fiddlesticks just seems lacking in this regard, and we want more from it. However, we still need to talk about his gameplay. First off, the biggest topic is his fear. I hate it, but understand why it needs to be in the game. Everyone needs to know that Riot intends to keep this point-and-click fear in his kit. The reason we need it though is because of how much mobility there is in the game. A lot of players complain about how OP champions like Aurelia are, saying stuff like, haha, she just dashed 7 times and outplayed me. While this is a bit of an exaggeration, with a few exceptions of course, the most reliable counterplay we have to this in League of Legends is point-and-click CC. On the receiving end, yeah, it definitely sucks, but ultimately this is what we need, the lesser of two evils. What I would like to see, however, is adding more skill or situational variance to it. Maybe they could have his fear's duration increase based on some factors, like missing health, proximity, or if they've been hit by some of Fiddlestick's other abilities simultaneously. What I don't like about the rest of his kit mainly is his W, his Drain, and his E Dark Wind. His ultimate is fine, and my only complaint about it is that it could be a bit more spooky. Give me a better reason to dress up as Fiddlesticks for Halloween. Riot, please. In the current state of things, Fiddle's other abilities are just point and click and don't really add too much to his gameplay. One of his abilities is literally just him standing still, being an actual scarecrow and hoping his enemy doesn't walk away. A similar ability is Aurelia's W, but that fits in with her thematic much more and makes a lot more sense in terms of her gameplay. There's a lot more skill expression with it. It can either be completely useless or let you block an incredible amount of damage. With Fiddlesticks' W, you get CC'd once and you die. And with how much crowd control there is in the game now, it just feels like his W is not useful or impactful outside of farming jungle camps. His E is definitely a bit better, but it still leaves me more to be wanting. Especially as a jungler, there are very few opportunities to bounce Fiddle's E in a way that really makes you feel good. As a support, you do get a few more opportunities during the laning phase when your enemies randomly clump up, but nevertheless, as the game progresses, it always feels like there's never a good reason to hold Fiddle's E. Like, when you play Brand, for example, you want to wait for a clump before ulting, but it might be better just to use it immediately to finish off your passive marks, or hold it longer because a better clump might arise. With Fiddlesticks, it's always just best to use it immediately or save it for channels, and the bouncing mechanic doesn't feel as relevant as it could. Again, it's not a bad ability because silence is always good, but I think comparatively to newer champions' designs, it just doesn't compare in how good it feels to use. Especially with newer champions, it feels like every ability has a place and has a purpose. Take Qiyana for example. Q is the bread and butter, W is used to adapt to situations, E is a gap closer, and her ultimate is her biggest teamfighting tool. In any teamfight, how I use all of these abilities really matters. When I play Fiddlesticks, however, it's more like outside of my ultimate and fear, it doesn't really matter how I use the other abilities because it doesn't make much of a difference. While some may disagree, I think a champion is more fun and rewarding when your ability usage isn't contingent on just one situation. For another comparison, let me talk about teamfighting. In a teamfight as Fiddle, the only things I do are fear X target, silence X target. With Qiyana, however, I need to consider the best ways to use my abilities based on the terrain and the layout of the fight. If a certain target gets low, I might want to take rock element and immediately dive in. Other times, I'll just take a brush element and try to stall out the fight. Yes, these two champions are different, and not all champions are designed to be hard, but even simple champions like Annie have more factors to take into consideration. Do I hold Tibbers for a clump, meaning I can't deal damage before I use him, or use a single target stun to deal more damage, but put myself in a situation where I've given up a huge AoE stun temporarily? Next up for the reworks is Volibear. Again, this poor guy needs a visual update just as much as our scarecrow friend. Riot is planning to incorporate more themes of lightning into the new Volibear, and it's definitely a good take on the champion. Right now, he's kind of fluffy and cute, but it would be nice to see a mightier bear represent one of nature's most dangerous elements. In terms of gameplay, it's really not too bad because Volibear's kit does have fluidity to it, especially once they added the bonus damage mechanic on Volibear's E. It actually does flow pretty well. The issue arises though when you do lock in Volibear and start playing him, because gameplay is pretty bland, and the cast time on Volibear's ultimate really takes you out of the moment. His ultimate does not feel good to use since you have to take a break, stand still, and then continue whatever you are going to do. Clunky and slow is what it feels like, and this rings true with his kit in general. Volibear runs at you menacingly, flips you over, and tries to beat you up. A comparable champion is Garen, but there are resources in his kit to make him feel more playable. Garen has a slow purge on his Q as well as increased tenacity with his W, meaning that it's more feasible for him to reach his targets. Compared to other Juggernauts, Volibear doesn't really feel rewarding. If you play Skarner, who also does the same thing, which is running down his opponent, you are rewarded with a suppression as well as the chance to pull your target towards your team. If you play Darius, you have the opportunity to get a reset and activate your passive. As Volibear, you just flip them over and beat them up, and there's a lot more ways for your opponents to get out afterwards. I think Volibear needs to make him feel more worth playing. Right now he feels pretty good and does a lot of damage, but it definitely feels impossible to play him when you fall behind. Other Juggernauts can feel similar, but like we mentioned, they're more rewarding when you manage to reach your targets, and therefore have better ways to get back into games. The final two champions Riot has told us about are a jungler and a solo laner. Unfortunately, not much information has been released about these just yet, except that they're a whimsical jungler, similar to something like Zoe or Nico, and an edgy solo lane melee carry. So, oh god, great. Another Yasuo is coming to League of Legends. That concludes this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more content like this or a ton of helpful content related to gameplay, check out our YouTube channel as well as ProGuides.com, where we've teamed up with professional players to design the best content to help you improve. Until next time, good luck on the Rift.